what's actually going to be a return to form for this class, because this is closer to how I originally taught it, or how I wanted to originally teach it. But this was going to be the Sakuga class. I've been kind of evolving how I'm doing stuff for the animation classes I teach, because I'm trying to learn and get up steam with my own animation and drawing skills. And I teach these classes here for free to teach everyone. So for those who are just coming in here and are new to this, my name's Spacedad. I'm a professional from the animation industry, working TV animation, mainly in 2D with Harmony and Flash. And I am teaching classes through YouTuber Ethan Becker's official Discord to improve my own skills as part of our community and stuff. Because the best way to learn and improve at something is to try to teach it to other people. So what we're going to be doing this session right here is we're going to be analyzing animation from the TV series Glitch Text. Future versions of this class, we will do further in animation breakdown and analysis, and we'll even get into animating our own versions of the ideas that we're trying to analyze here. We might get into a little bit of that tonight too. But the main thing we're going to be focusing on, is like trying to understand and break down the ideas that are like in the animated clip that's on screen here. This Sakuga clip, which I actually link in chat for people so they can bring it up and download it themselves. Let's see here, copy and paste. Pasting that, I'm going to paste this in the Discord classroom chat. I also should do a little preamble before we get started here about how to join the Discord and what you do to join my class section in the Discord. So down below on my Twitch page, there is an invite link for the Ethan Becker Discord right here. You join that. We only have a few people in the voice chat room. Most of the people right now are actually just in Twitch, but like you can upload work like live during the class. It doesn't cost anything to join. These are free classes, and you can just join the Discord. And you have to just check the rules section before you're allowed to post. The other thing you can do is there's a section for my class stuff down below that's hidden from you until you go to the. But you can like see here. There's like a bunch of like class sections and stuff with like the head drawing class I teach and figure drawing classes and so on. And in order to join that, you have to go to the I think the opt-in channel. Opt-in channel. It tells you like what command you're supposed to input in order to enter a class. My class section is called the Spaceball Furies, which is this right here. So you do ! Spaceball Furies in the enter your command section in order to join right here. In order to be part of my group, you'll be pinged. You'll get access to my class discussion sections, and you'll get pinged when I pinged people who are in my class section. I often ping them because I'm soliciting feedback about like how to improve my classes and how to improve the Discord, and I've got some ideas for different events I'm going to be doing in the future. There's a fundraising event that I'm kind of exploring. And okay, what's some other preamble stuff? I don't want to dwell too much on donation stuff, but I'm going to be doing a donation drive thing in a few weeks. But if you want to support the channel to make sure these classes keep going and keep them free for everyone else and stuff, you can subscribe to my Patreon. You can donate me directly with my Ko-fi link down below in the donation link, which just goes directly to my PayPal. And you can also send me Twitch bits or subscribe to me on Twitch. And I realize a lot of people are going through financial hardships right now, so it's no big deal if you can't support, because the best you can still support me by just coming here and showing up and participating in the classes and watching my YouTube videos, YouTube replays of the classes. In any case, so what we're going to be looking at right now is the TV show Glitch Text. So what is Glitch Text? Glitch Text is an animated series that's kind of a Western, Sakuga show, and it's kind of an evolution of other shows that Nickelodeon has done before. This one is made for Netflix, part of their partnership with Netflix. But it is a Nickelodeon show, and it bears some of the resemblance to how Nickelodeon shows have evolved over time. I would say that like the lineage of this is pretty closely linked to shows like Danny Phantom, as opposed to like shows like it's kind of like if somebody put Studio Trigger and Danny Phantom in a blender, basically. Back in the day when I was watched Danny Phantom, I thought, wow, like, and because I already knew about like Sakuga animation and stuff. I would watch Danny Phantom. I was thinking, wow, this show would be much more compelling if the animation in it was like really, really cool, well executed Sakuga stuff. Well, fast forward to now, like all those kids who thought the same thing learned how to animate Sakuga animation. And me, a dumbass, was in school learning like more like traditional Disney animation instead of like the principles of limited full animation. So I'm having to do catch up now with all the cool kids of analyzing this kind of animation that I always loved but never got a proper teacher for. So we're going to be doing a lot of reverse engineering in this class of existing animation from cool ass shows like this. Sometimes we'll be doing it from actual anime shows. Sometimes we'll be doing from Western anime shows like Glitch Text. I think it's good to do just everything, and we'll probably even analyze like classic Disney animation and other stuff in the future too, which I think is really excellent work, especially like Milk Call stuff and some of the best of the '90s animation from Disney is really worth digging into. And even some of the modern TV shows, like a lot of the work on like Owl House and so on and DuckTales. Some of the better Sakuga shots in those shows, they have Sakuga animation in DuckTales, yes. That stuff is like really great to try to break down and analyze too, because there's a lot of like westernized construction for the characters that goes into these shows that are drawn more like something that you would expect from like something that came out of like the lineage of Danny Phantom or like I don't know, any number of things really, but anyway, in any case, we're going to be what we're going to be doing right now is up in the corner of the screen right here is a draw along figure pose folder I have. I'm just going to set that up right now. This little thing on the side here is going to be optional for y'all. I'm going to set it to about let's say about 5-minute poses. I'm going to also turn off the audio on it if I can. If there's a setting for it. Oh jeez. Otherwise the beeping is going to get annoying during the class. Huh. Maybe I can reduce the volume of the app, but it's going to be 5-minute poses. They're just going to be cycling through from a pose folder up here in the upper left. I'm going to switch back to Cintiq Focus, and I'm going to put on a little bit of music, royalty free radio. I'm going to put on a royalty free arcade radio that I like. That also fit the theme of this right here. This is Synth Arcade Radio. There we go. Let's turn that down a bit. Let me know if the music gets in the way of my voice at any point or whatever. But yeah, this should be a pretty fun class. A second here. So, what we're going to do, there's a clip in particular that I downloaded yesterday that I linked in chat. It's this one right here. I'm going to be uploading it actually into my my drawing, my Toon Boom Harmony real quick. Here, just let me make a you seeing glitched. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going through the scene. I'm going to be talking about what's happening in it from my perspective as an animator. I'll be listening to insight of stuff that people notice about the shot as we go through it, and we'll be thinking about ways that we can strategize to how to utilize some of what we're seeing there in our own work. So let's see here. I'm going to make sure that it has to be the right format for me to import, I think. But that might have changed in Harmony 20 recently, so... Yeah, I can import it. Great. Oh, I should be able to import it. Where's the fucking... Please stand by for technical difficulties. Alright, it should have imported. It's really silly. Yeah, son of a pain in the ass. Alright. Just give me a second, folks. I'm going to try to convert it to the file format I need. So... I think it has to be an MP4. So let's make sure I get this converted to MP4 real quick, and then I'll be able to import, and then we'll get started. But feel free to draw on the to get some drawing practice in while we get this fixed. It is an MP4 file. Why is it not letting me import it? Cool. Thanks, Harmony. Don't worry. There's going to be a way for us to do this anyway. Even if I can't import it into the drawing app, what we're going to do is I'm just going to bring up the actual file itself, and we'll work on it that way. Could just try renaming it to AVI. Let's try that real quick. So try naming it to .mov or .mp4. Cool. It's not letting me upload the fucking file. Great. Well, it doesn't matter. I'm going to be able to do this. I'm still going to be able to do this anyway. I just can't do it directly in the drawing app. We'll just have to, like, I'll be bringing it up on screen here, and then we can analyze it that way. So open with VLC Media Player. Cool. Alright, so we're going to have to use this to kind of analyze and understand the animation. So I may need to do some finagling with the windows here so that I can get a good view of it. Or actually what I'll do is we'll have it on the lower left, and I'm going to screenshot it and just import it that way. Just erase this stuff. There we go. Cool. Alright, so we can just get the frames we need directly in here. That's all we need, really. Let's make a new drawing later, and then we'll get started. Alright. Alright. After that false start, now we're ready to go. So what's happening in here, in the animation on the lower left here, I'll switch focus here. So So this is a scene from the first episode of season 2, where like characters are fighting like a glitch that's like a glitch bad guy or whatever, which is the monsters in the show that the characters fight. There's a kind of a porcupine enemy or something like that that's like spitting. I think it's like a plant enemy or something with giant thorns that's spewing out like all these like thorns everywhere. This character right here, she's preparing to attack it, and she's using like a magnetic tool on her glove in order to stick herself to the roof of that kind of the vehicle that the rest of her crewmates are in. She's kind of taking it on herself to jump ahead of them and take out the monster in a single blow. So the whole scene is her like jumping in perspective off the vehicle, and then jumping in perspective on different objects in the scene. Oh wow, that's some crunchy artifact in there. And jumping on like these kind of the thorns that are being shot at her are kind of like they've been turned into kind of like cones in perspective, which is a really cool, simple way to handle them. I think they were drawn a little bit differently in the final. Wow, that's some really crunchy artifact in there in that download. I think that had to do with the file conversion I made, but I can use a different version of this file for this. But yeah, this is a I forget the name for that punch, but there's like a that style of punch there is a style of punch you're going to see coming up in anime a lot. It's usually where there's some kind of a really big wind-up, and the camera either usually follows or gets like a full frame image of it. Like you usually see like the wind-up to the punch, like a really, really small hand behind the body winding up the punch, and then we get like even like the face of the character like right in the frame before we get like this huge sense of like them turning their whole body and putting the full force of their arm behind the blow. Sometimes, but not all the time, you'll get like a face full of the punch itself. Other times the camera might follow the hand to whatever is being punched, like usually a face, or in this case it's a giant robot. It's a weak point on a giant monster, but we don't see it until the cut. It's a very Studio Trigger-y kind of starburst there too. But you can see right here, like before any of the action happens, there's kind of a limited animation moment where just her hair and her mouth are moving, and her eyes, and I guess like the cuff of her glove in the wind there. But there's some very cool poses here. So one of the principles that's going on here is a principle of limited full animation. What limited full animation is limited full animation is a approach to animation where you put a less is more approach into your posing, so you get the feeling of full animation out of animation that is pretty limited. Like, and sometimes you might go back and forth between being more full and more limited. Like sometimes in these kind of limited full clips, you'll see characters like being animated on 3s or 6s or something, where like it's like only moving like one frame every 6, where like there's only one new piece of animation. There's one new drawing of animation every 6 frames, or there's one new drawing of animation every 3 frames in 24 frames a second. But what you get out of this approach to animation is you are able to get more of a sense of motion with less drawings in that approach. And one of the principles of this kind of less is more approach is that you put so much contrast into your key poses that like the difference between them is highlighted even more. And that definitely happens here. Like, here, check this out. Like, okay, so let's try maybe go back a bit. So she's anticipating her jump there, where she like really, really scrunches down. And that's kind of contrasted by this. Definitely this. Like that's in total contrast to the the wind-up pose right there. If you were doing like a full-on limited animation thing, you could probably get away with just like one in-between, or maybe no in-betweens between that and when she would crouch down to lift off and jump. It would kind of look like a slideshow, but it would still look cool. And look, contrast right there. When she lands on the peg, she's scrunched down. She's facing the other direction. Her line of action on her body is completely different. And same kind of thing going on here. She was compressed before. Now she's stretched out. Compressing against this kind of I think it's a street sign or something, or a light. We all swing in front of the camera. And that's in really stark contrast to what came previously. And she's moving from like the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen to the left to the right again. And if you really look at it, like she's kind of moving in sort of almost like a figure 8 pattern a little bit across the screen. That's another principle of limited animation, of when like crazy action is being tracked on the screen like this. Like if you use some kind of pattern of movement moving around the screen that makes sense, like a figure 8 kind of thing, like here, you can then you can lead the audience's eye around, and it looks really cool and dynamic. Yeah, there's some great posing in this shot. We could literally just meditate on this shot for this entire class here if we wanted to. We might look at some other stuff though. But let's take a look at this and maybe like grab one of the more dynamic poses in here, or two of them actually, to kind of contrast them, to show this principle of contrast that I'm talking about. So I think the early ones are the best ones to probably go for here, so do that. Let's see. See if I can catch her from a good... Alright, I'll catch her from a good crouch. So we can start with that. We're going to try to be really nimble with this, because we want to understand what's going on, because we want to learn how to apply this to our own work. Like, the same ideas, the same core concepts that are going on here could be applied any way we choose to our own work, sometimes in very different ways than the show's going by. So I'm going to do a quick sketch here. I'm going to suggest people maybe do a quick sketch study of what's going on here. I'll do a quick sketch, and then I'll talk and I'll bring up on screen in larger size what's going on here. So I'm just gonna kind of rough something in. I'm not too worried about being hugely accurate. I want the same general idea of what's happening. I don't care about getting the characters on model, because how could I? This is my first time ever trying to draw these characters. I'll have to stick with basic shapes. I mean, I could be bold and try to get some of their type in if I'm feeling like it, but this is my first time trying to draw these characters, so I'm just going to stick with really basic shapes. I just try to kind of understand the idea of what's going on. This is a really, really nicely designed pose. One of the things we're going to be really pushing in the coming weeks... Oh yeah, this? No, these are tied down, cleaned up drawings. This is not how the animators would draw something like this initially. They draw it very, very rough. Like, so what you're getting here is a very tied down, cleaned up drawing. This is not representative of how the animators start the animation in their shots. That's another thing to keep in mind when we're doing these. You shouldn't be going for making the drawings impeccable right now. You should be trying to understand the guts of what's happening. There's a lot of different principles of animation that are at work here. There's even like stuff about like the wave principle that's happening with the hair. We'll get more into the wave principle in the future. I might touch on it here a bit, or if it's really especially relevant for me to do so. But yeah, this is a really nicely designed pose. Like the animator who designed this key pose like really pushed it, and has a really good sense of how to push posing. So I'm not worried about like making a pretty accurate drawing and stuff. I'm trying to understand the idea of what's happening here. And the idea of what's happening here is a principle of contrast. That's what I'm trying to key into, because I want to start applying it to my own animating and figure drawing on my own terms. So there's actually three different. If you wanted to, you could just have like about 3 poses in here, and it would probably sell the idea. You could maybe even just have 2 poses in here. But like there's this. Then there's like some kind of in-between here when she's actually moving through the air. But she ends up like you could have it like you could have it move to like this and still sell the idea, I think. In fact, let's maybe try that real quick. I'm gonna make a second frame here where I'm going to move like the top of the van back down in the corner here. I'm just gonna add some little lines here. It's nothing fancy. That van is in perspective, and it's following the perspective of this kind of like crazily designed shot. Like if there's a floor grid, it's gonna be like this kind of thing. Whoops. It's gonna be kind of like this. A real crazy thing, but yeah, this character, in contrast to her last post, like the background is even contrasting where it was previously, without how tiny the van is in comparison. Like when you're designing shots in limited full animation, you want to aim for contrast in everything, and that includes how the layout is composed, especially for moving camera shots like this. Like every part of the buffalo gets used in limited full animation if possible, which is kind of weird. The reason why they call it limited full is because you do a less is more approach, but the animator has to like have a level of fidelity in their limited animation that they would put into full animation. Like in full animation, individual frames might not necessarily be as important as the whole. But in limited full animation, very often like you'll get very cool looking individual drawings like this that stand up on their own, that could be held in a held cell and look great. But they could also be in-betweened. More in-betweens could be added to them, and they could get more elaborate by adding more to them. And a lot of limited full animation people design their shots that way, especially in TV production. Because then if the director says, we need some more frames here, it's like, okay, cool. Like the way my shot is designed works really well for just adding stuff, or subtracting if they decide, if I add the frames and decide they want to take it out, and it looks more punchy that way. This is probably, let's see here, maybe I can push that a bit. That back leg isn't quite selling it for me, for my little quick study example here. I think it's because it's not at a good angle, but to really sell it. It's more like about here too, in the layout, I think. Let's kind of rough it in. Again, I'm not going for accuracy here. I'm trying to understand the idea of what's happening in the shot. Yeah, see, just imagine this better drawn. This still could work. Like you could probably still get away with something like this, and depending on the context, of just like those 2 frames. And you've probably seen a lot of anime that has exactly what I'm talking about, where it's just like 2 highly contrasting frames that might be shot on like 3s or 6s or something. But for this, they wanted this to be a really big money shot in the opening of the show, so they actually put a considerable amount of frames into this. And so one of the in-betweens that's going on here, there's a few in-betweens here. Two, 3. So there's 2 in-betweens here. From that to that to that. So the most immediately contrasting in-between that the most immediate contrasting in-between we see is this one here. So let me see if I can. There we go. I'll just do like a quick kind of rough in. I think the camera makes a sharp pullback at that point. So that little kind of vehicle down there is already kind of shrunken by the time she lifts off. She's really, really coming up. Like, this is a highly contrasting pose from where she was previously. Like you can like really like see the line of action there on the pose. She comes up about to mid frame-ish, I'd say. The animated this character design, this character design is really interesting in that like she has a very kind of simplified hairstyle in a lot of the stuff we see with her, where it's like this. Her hair is almost like a superhero cape at times. It's like it's usually handled like in a really, really simple fashion. It's usually not like cut into multiple strands or whatever. And this simplifies things a lot more for the animators, and it also looks really cool. In contrast, her hair is like her hair flaps around like a superhero cape a lot. Yeah. Another thing that's important about these character designs is the how dark the eyes are. If you notice, one of the darkest parts on these character designs that have proportionally quite big faces, because they're very, very Western animation designs, they have high contrast, very, very black parts of their design in their eyes and their eyebrows. There's a little bit of that going on in their facial features too. That makes it easier to read where their faces are, and what direction they're facing, what direction their head is facing during like even crazy action moments like this. Should probably switch it back, maybe something like that. I'll be swapping back and forth, I think. So what we get is we get a compressed action like this, contrast, the camera zooming back, and then we're going to add the other in between here and see how that looks. If I had this uploaded into Harmony, we could look at the actual frames that they used. I might actually see if I can load this into another drawing app that I can, or if I can figure out how to do frame by frame in VLC Media Player, I'll do that. Another observation I noticed is that the camera is actually kind of like bouncing up and down to the right and the left in arcs across the screen. Like the camera is like pulling back and stuff, but it's kind of doing like this. It's kind of hopping around with her a little bit. I think it also follows her in a kind of a loop pattern when she loops around that signpost. But yeah, the camera is just like kind of bouncing back and forth and looping around and following her and stuff as it kind of pulls back. Now let's see, I'll get the... I'm gonna kind of guesstimate that it's like right here. I know that there's like more camera move shit going on with it, but I'm not gonna worry about that. I'm gonna worry about mainly about her posing and the contrast that's going on with it. So she's about, I want to say here-ish in the frame. I'm just gonna plot in about where and about how big I think her head is in this. Like, also because the camera pulls back, her head shrinks here, then it grows up to full size again. I think she might be a little small on this frame too. Like that, maybe. I'm just going to try to get like some simple shapes in to kind of plot in what she's doing there. And again with that superhero cape look to her hair. So let's like put this on 3s and see how it looks. Maybe I'll favor the, maybe I'll put the first frame on, I'll put the first frame on like 12 just so we can see what's going on here. Let's get rid of that. I'm going to put the rest of these on 3s just to see how they look. Yeah, it's starting to look pretty close to the show. I'm going to put this one on 6, just so you might have a little bit more hang time. I think that this frame might be on 2s. Let's try this, actually. Let's see what happens if it looks like it's decelerating. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna try adding what comes after, but that's actually not looking too. It's not looking too far off from the show. In terms of the basic idea here. So I'm going to. Hang on one sec. It's hard for me to spot my mouse on. There we go. I'm going to move further ahead. So we got this, and then there's another frame that comes after it, like here. Yeah, that's it, right there. And there's a camera move that goes down before. Yeah, it's using the camera. Look at that, look at that. We can actually track how many frames it is. Look, this is limited animation right here. Held cell. Frame 2 held. And there's like a third frame it's held on here, I think. I think it's like 2 frames. It actually might be more though. I think this entire shot might be happening on 2s. So this is held for like maybe like 8 frames. That drawing before, yeah, that's a really good example of limited full animation right there. Those 2 poses. That is really like spot on what I'm talking about right here. So I'm going to back up a bit. We're going to go to about here, and I'm going to draw her pose, and then I'm going to repeg it. Media player class usually gets around visual artifact crap really pretty well. Yeah, I'll use a different version of the file if we get to a point in this that I really need it. And I'll probably see if I can get some kind of frame by frame thing. I have no idea why it won't let me import the Harmony file, import the files into Harmony. It's really annoying. Let me see here. Was there any kind of separate menu that came up? Nope. Can't import Harmony 20 MP4. Can't import video. Huh. Weird. Well, I'll have to do some troubleshooting later. It's apparently a common issue. But in any case, so now we're going to move to the next pose. I will try to get like a little kind of approximation about where I think the van is. It's like really tucked in the corner there, so like this. I just need it kind of there to kind of place in relation where the shot is happening. When I repeg it, I'm going to move that shit down a bit. Alright, so we got her head that's like almost like hitting like the top of the frame here. And for you new animators, that's one thing you want to be aware of. You always want to try to animate beyond the frame, because if you need to repeg something for a camera move or whatever, then you're going to have a bad time if you didn't animate beyond the frame. I know it sucks that oftentimes you'll have parts of your animation that aren't going to be on screen for production, but unless you do that, it's going to screw things up. But that's also why you want to ask your animation director, is it okay to animate beyond the frame here, or should I just kind of leave that out to save time? What program is this? I'm using Toon Harmony. Harmony 20 specifically. I may wind up using my permanent copy of... This is a subscription copy of Harmony 20, but I may use my permanent copy of Harmony 12 at some point, because that one I'm able to import stuff in, and it's really irritating. And I can just like, if I do that, then I can import it there, and then I can just like load the file again into Harmony 20. It's a really kind of scuffed way to troubleshoot that issue, but I'm going to give that a try later. I don't have Harmony 12 installed in this computer, but I'll do that later. Anyway, so we got that, and then the camera is actually going to be going down. So I'll make a new drawing actually where I repeg the stuff, which is kind of a no-no. If you're doing a camera move, you're supposed to move the peg. But I'm going to just do this. For this, because this is just like kind of an animatic-y sort of test here. So let's get to the next frame here. So it's like this. It's very quick because those things are moving so fast. That they shrink really quickly. This is all fakery. Like that thing she's jumping on is like a projectile that's supposed to be being shot and move through the air. So this is all like really, really quick, shorthand, sleight of hand fakery going on here. Yeah, so it's like that. Then this, immediately. It's pretty wild, isn't it? So I'll just add this, duplicate drawing, get rid of this, move this kind of more here. Just add more to this thing just so I can have it kind of a little bit composed like how the scene is. Oops. So the point of this class is to get this kind of stuff into your bloodstream. We're going to be doing like more complex and simple shots in the future. This one is pretty complicated. This one uses rules of perspective. This one uses like sleight of hand fakery. This one uses principles of limited full animation. There's a lot of stuff going on here, but I don't want even newcomers to be intimidated by this stuff. Like, you should feel free to try to experiment with crazy stuff like this too, in addition to your basic animation exercises. So I'm gonna kind of humor what they did here, which is they literally just use like, I think they literally just use like an ellipse tool and line tool to make that kind of cone thing right there. I think it's drawn differently in the actual show, but for this kind of layout animation, it's handled very simply. Like this. That's kind of it. And we'll get her sketched in now. Oops. Like this. So you got one leg that's kind of wrapping around it there. Her knee is up pretty high there. That's really some wild stylizing. It's not even, I say wild stylizing, that's not really that wild. This show can get pretty crazy. There's like a lot of the people who work on it are big Studio Trigger fans and stuff. There's some amazingly talented people who've actually worked on like anime productions too, who've worked on this series. Some of our Discord regulars have actually worked on this show too, including one of the people who teaches classes through our Discord. They were able to share some cool shit from the production, some cool production info without breaking NDA, of course, with the other people here a couple times. So again, with that kind of wavy sort of like superhero cape hair right here. Have you ever tried PV Paint? I'd try it if it wasn't so damn expensive. I'd love to try it. Do you have $1,000? I'd be happy to try it then. Honestly though, like I should maybe do a donation drive for TV Paint because it is a really strong piece of software, and having it so I can do freelance work would be fantastic. And if you'd like to support the stream so I can do stuff like purchase a webcam to get like a traditional animation setup with a webcam downshooter or whatever, or a traditional drawing setup so I can do traditional charcoal drawing demos or whatever, then you can donate down below or subscribe to me or throw bits at me or whatever. But anyway, so we got her squatting on the rocket there. But well, not sort of rocket. It's not a rocket. It's a giant spike. But let's maybe have her squat there for about 6 frames. Maybe just extend it a little bit just so we can read what's going on. So here, I'll make the loop end there. I think those are all individual frames, so I'll press them to 1s maybe and see how that looks. Yeah, it's a little too quick. I think it's on 2s actually. But we'll be able to investigate frame by frame when I load this into like Windows Media Player or something. Yeah, I think the shot's on 2s. So let's maybe put it to there. It's looking a little bit stiff there, though. Let's see how it actually looks in the shot, and maybe we can kind of guesstimate the timing before I try figuring out the frame by frame, so we can kind of. Actually, let me look for the commands. Maybe I can find the VLC frame by frame shortcut. Huh. Yeah, there's a shortcut command thing I can set up for this where I can get frame by frame. Oh, there it is. Next frame, 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 next frame. So what's the shortcut for previous frame? VLC shortcut previous frame. Damn. With a quick Google, I don't think that there's a previous frame command, so we're gonna just have to bear with this. Maybe. I'll just have to whoops. Might have to like click. I'll have to be clever and click back and forth. I wonder here. Let's take a look at this. Okay, so she's got like a really heavy anticipation here. Like the camera even helps reinforce her anticipation. So we might take a look at some of these frames too, some more. Camera pulling back. She compresses. You can press it even more. Like those were two. That was a held cell for like a few frames there, with the camera pulling back. This is the second frame where she appears on this frame. New frame, new drawing, where she's really contrasted her pose here. So maybe I'll add that in now. So let's see. Get the vehicle in there. Something like this. Yeah, she's like really compressed. Like she's almost becoming like kind of like, I don't know why, but like when I see characters do stuff like this, I always think of like they're turning into Pac-Man or something. Like it's kind of like this sort of thing, where they turn into like a Pac-Land character. You occasionally see frames like this that really push things. Like there's crazy amount of like faked foreshortening going on here to like really contrast the next thing that she does. But thanks to the new frame, thanks to me figuring out how to do frame by frame in VLC Media Player, we'll be able to get the actual timing that the show used. This was a show that was animated just like traditional animation on 24 frames per second. It's actually starting to become more of a thing lately to animate on 30 frames per second, usually for games animation. So I've seen some like animated shorts that are integrated into the game, 2D animated shorts that are integrated into the game engine, that are animated on like 30 FPS. And I could even see like glitch text, given its game theme, getting more of like a kind of a game feel to it by being animated on 30 frames per second. That doesn't necessarily mean that the show wouldn't like still use the same frame budget as 24 frames per second, but there might be like a kind of a slightly different flavor of timing for doing that, which could be potentially interesting if they tried something like that, which they definitely have not. From what I've seen, the show is pretty much 24 frames per second. That's an interesting idea to think about. It's like the feel and the flavor of animation changes depending on frames per second. You can see this a lot more in like game animation. It's usually 3D animation animated at like 30 or 60 frames per second. The reason why games are animated that smoothly is because games are about player reflexes and reaction times. And 30 and 60 FPS is better for player response, like player animation, player responsiveness to what's happening on screen, and especially 60 FPS and above, than 24 frames per second. So that's about 2 frames when she's like that. There's more going on here. Yeah, ones is 1 frame per second. Twos is 2 frames. No, ones is like okay, so if you have 24 frames in a second, ones are 1 new drawing every frame in that 24 frames a second. Twos are 1 drawing every 2 frames. Threes are 1 new drawing every 3 frames. 4s, 5s, 6s, 7s, and so on. You tend to see 3s. You tend to see 3s, 6s, and like 7s and stuff in Japanese anime, limited full stuff. There's a lot of 3s and 6s in Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Animating on 3s has its own rhythm and timing to it that takes some mastery to get into. We'll be getting more into that in the future. So let's do some dissection here and try to get this working at the same timing that the show has done the shot at. Maybe let's start with the whole shebang. Let's start with her all the way back here. Let's just do the whole thing for this entire sequence leading up to when she eventually lands on the giant projectile there. So extend this out. I'll delete this part right here, and I'll do an extreme close-up. Well, not extreme, but it's kind of extreme close-up of the roof, relatively speaking. But it's just this is almost like a medium close shot, I want to say. So what's cool about this is like this entire sequence, we get a good read of her attitude and focus on her face before she's not moving, before she takes off and does all that crazy action. So the audience has time to kind of register her attitude. The audience has time to kind of register what her thought process is and why she's doing what she's doing, and they have time to kind of register the contrast in what her body's doing before she takes off. Among other things. Let's see here, I'm not gonna fully animate like her hair waving. I might like do a 2-frame cycle or something. But I want to just include a little bit of her eyes or whatever. Just enough to get like the attitude, because attitude is important for stuff like this. And again, I'm not concerned with like getting accurate drawing here. I'm just trying to understand the idea. So I might do like a 2-frame cycle, 2 or 3-frame cycle of her hair or something here. 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. There's a wave cycle going on in her hair and the other stuff. Whoops. What's going on here? Why did it freeze up? Let's do a frame count real quick. When does the camera start moving? When does the camera start moving back from her? So at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 6, 27, 28. What the hell? Did it freeze up? 29, 30, 31. I think it froze up. Something fucky's going on here. Yeah, it's working fine like that. I think there's something weird with VLC Media Player not caching the full thing. But we can kind of guesstimate, like, she's about like 30 something frames in. Three, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, so maybe she's about like 50, 60 frames in or something, I don't know. Maybe about like, I'll put it about like 45. That should be enough to give us enough of a buffer before she starts taking off. And there's at least a few frames of the camera pulling back. Then there's a few frames before she goes into the super contrasty posing. So more like this. Just adjust this, and I'll delete something in here so I can draw the new frame. Alright, so the frame we want is going to be, let's see here. Like this. There's going to be like 3 drawing changes for her. I think we got 2 of them already. So just make sure that I get the van kind of generally in the right area. Somewhere about here-ish. It's actually not too far off. Yeah, it's about there. Kind of. This is going to shrink. Let's get rid of that. Her head is probably about here. She's got her arm up there with a balled up fist. Her leg heavily foreshortened, pressed against the roof of the car, the vehicle. And this is also the same drawing, so I'm going to draw a little bit beyond the same drawing as the next one, so I'm going to draw a little bit beyond the frame a bit, so I can repeg it without having to add anything to it. I'm going to include a little bit more of the attitude on her face. I wonder. So, yeah, her hair doesn't even change to the next frame. But the drawing does get repegged. So... that here. Zoomed out. Let's see what happens next now. Yeah, there we go. This actually gets repegged, I think. This gets placed about here. And a little larger. Something like that. And then the next frame, what happens there? That gets really contrasted, actually. So, this frame shrinks. Gets really small, in fact. About like right here. see, there might be some adjustment to make here. This could probably be smaller. Much smaller. And then on this one, this frame gets, the bus gets a little smaller. So mind you, there's really kind of like crummy way that I'm drawing right now. This is not too dissimilar from how I would approach like my this first facet, like thumbnailing on a scene, or doing like a quick crappy pose test, because then I can go back through and I can do prettier drawings. So you notice it still works for like understanding what's happening. Look at that. Check it out. See if you just kind of like rough in like the general idea of what's happening and like kind of get like shapes that are sort of working, simple shapes that are sort of working with what's actually happening. You can kind of key into and replicate what's going on. So, with this in mind, I think we're good to move on to something else in here. Like, I'm not too concerned with adding like a frame, like a wave cycle on the hair here. I think that would be a little time consuming. I think the head might be a little big here. Shrink that a bit. So I'm going to move on and see where this takes us now. I'm really interested about how the fakery that goes on with this projectile here, because it kind of changes size and maintains size in weird ways that are still kind of fake the illusion that she's like jumping on these projectiles that are flying through space while the camera's kind of following her. So we'll take a look at that real quick, but I'm going to get a little bit of hydration right now before we move on. So I'll just set this on a loop and I'm going to get some water, and I'll be right back.
Hey, where are you going? I'm just walking down to MC. What's MC? Meat Clown. Meat Clown? What is that?
Meat Clown is a wholesale provider of quality discount meat products.
And look, we have beef loin tri-tip roast for only $4.49. Meat Clown meat products, OMG, they're so delicious.
And make sure to try our new Meat Clown meat nuggets.
You could get crunk with your Meat Clown.
Come on down to Dave's Chillin' and Grillin' at 2152 Colorado Boulevard and get your free Meat Clown pin.
What the hell do you think you're doing? Dragging your butt through the day, selling body and soul to a bunch of bland normals? Acting stupid so they'll think you're one of them? Tired of getting all of the guilt, but none of the sex? There is a simple answer, dear friend. A glowing beacon of slack amidst the turmoil and darkness. It's J.R. Bob Dobbs, the living slack master, and his Church of the Subgenius. Bob brings a new destiny for the abnormal. For Bob comes to justify our sins, to unmask the conspiracy, and to get us back the slack they stole away. It's us versus them. Are you gonna fry in hell on earth alongside the pink boys? Or will you pull the wool over your own eyes and accept Bob into your mind? Repent, quit your job, slack off, and praise Bob!
Church of the Subgenius, eternal salvation, or triple your money back.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed the words from our sponsors. Meat Clown, the Church of the Subgenius, and whatever that was. I don't even remember the name of the cereal. But, so we're gonna get back right at it. Let's first off recap what we just did and what we were learning. What the hell? What happened there? That's weird. Okay, so let's recap what we've been going over. We're taking a look at this limited full animation perspective shot, hopping back and forth using camera moves to sell these poses of a character jumping from projectile to projectile through space and swinging, and of course like swinging around a fire pole or whatever, street light, before ending up with a really kind of cool contrasty punch. Let's maybe see if we can get the whole sequence in today, if possible. It wouldn't be that far off. Like this, we'll save this to the very end, right here. This cool ass punch down here. We'll eat the whole meal today and get this entire thing in. By the way, if you're following along here, the ways that you can study this, you can kind of just sit here and vibe and watch what I'm doing. You can draw along in like the animation software of your choice. You can draw traditionally and like thumbnail out stuff. You can choose if you like you can choose if you like to be doing the timed figure poses, so they're in the upper left of my screen right here, to get a little bit of figure drawing practice in. But like the best way to study this stuff, if you want to internalize it, is to grab the file itself from Sakuga Brew, which I linked earlier. If you want me to link it again, if there's newcomers here that don't have it, you can get it in the Discord, in the classroom chat. But I'll link it again in chat, in Twitch chat, if you need me to. We're going to be at this for maybe like, I want to say, another hour and a half or so. And we'll see if we can get the whole scene in today. I'm pretty sure we'll be able to. But this should be a very rewarding experience. We can kind of think back and strategize how we might use like some of this stuff in our own shots. One thing I want to point out before we move on, when you're planning a scene like this, you don't necessarily have to draw a whole figure in like they did. When you're planning a scene like this, you can just like use some very, very simple shapes. Like, it's not uncommon for like Sakuga animators to show off their skills and like develop their skills by just like using like a ball or a cube or something. Cube is really handy for animating, for like learning how to animate in perspective. So if you can do like cool Sakuga animation on like a ball, you can just, it's not too hard to like replace the ball with a figure that kind of is following the same gestural rules as the ball or whatever. Like the way that the ball is moving in through space, and there might be effects animation happening around it, zooming around, ping-ponging around a scene. If you can get like a ball or a cube working for a cool-ass piece of Sakuga animation, or when you're planning out a shot and you don't want to get caught up in figure drawing, you want to concentrate on like cool timing and stuff, you can just use like a quick kind of like rough, contrasty force of the ball or whatever, like just zipping around the frame. So you'll see CG animators actually do something like that too, where they will use like this bouncy, stretchy ball, or they'll draw on the frame kind of like that for their first pass, like plotting out the pathway that the character moves through a shot or something. So like this kind of like, I'm going this kind of like really scribbly figure drawing that I'm sort of like basing off of the frames that we're looking at. Like this is actually even more complex than you would necessarily even go on your first pass on a shot. Because if you can just work with forces alone to make that look cool, then you have like a good foundation to make riff on, to make really cool contrasty poses with. So on that note, we're going to start where we left off, which is about here-ish. And of course the next thing that happens in this shot is after she lands, I think it's like the next frame, the shot is trying to maintain the illusion that that thing is flying through space. So this van and the layout behind it gets shrunken a bit, and she gets really shrunken here, pretty small. That's fairly close. I might make some more adjustments for that, maybe a little smaller. But let's see, the next frame. Actually, that's held for 2 frames. That's pretty interesting. Okay, so the next frame, she gets really small. So I'm going to shrink this down, but then I'll delete her. Might use her feet as kind of posing, but she gets really small here. It's because this peg is moving, this little kind of spike is moving through space away from the camera. So I think the van gets a little smaller, but not as small as she does. So that's like one of those little touches where they kind of fake the illusion that that thing's moving through space. It's not really, it's kind of shrinking. So I'll just erase the top of her body here a bit. Maybe keep her head there just so I can, like, yeah, I'll repeg her head a bit just to kind of maintain head size body ratio. And make sure I delete this part here. Hair there. I think she might be crouching a little bit more too, like her butt might be going down there. Well, it looks enough that like she is from what I did on the previous frame, so I'm just going to stick with that. I'm going to add in like kind of those black eyes right there, because those really read even in the rough animation form. So let's see where this goes next. So, interesting, like, look what happens to the peg. So first off, like, this thing shrinks a little more, I think. Shrinks a little more, and it kind of moves to the right a bit, because the camera is starting to move to the right. And so this thing comes into frame. I'm going to do kind of a placeholder drawing it. This is this thing that she's going to swing around. This pole here. I might replace this because I might need it. I might need to redraw it for something that works a little better. Your otherworldly animation skills. Well, I'd be interested to see. Yeah, that like spike gets shrunk really tiny right here on this. I don't think this might have been a mistake. So, but I'm gonna go with it. Whoa, that was interesting. What happened there? Okay, well the camera lurches more to the left here. She vanishes almost completely. I don't think the spike shrinks anymore. I'm not sure if it even moves. Take a look here. It might shrink a little. Hard to say though. I'm just gonna say that it did, and I'm gonna move it to the right a bit. But I need to make sure that I'm contrasting what she's doing here. So that kind of what I'm talking about with like thinking of things in terms of simple shapes. I'm just gonna think in terms of a line of action for her pose here. Right now. This big old stretchy ball. That's just she was like kind of a squishy ball. Anticipating this jump previously. Now she's become a stretchy ball. Reaching out here. So if you understand the rules of figure drawing, if you animate like really simple, squashy, stretchy forms and stuff, kind of like in the general idea of where the character is going to be first, it's not too hard to kind of invent figure poses for it. So your first pass to animation is very often just going to look like freaking that, you know. Alright, so we immediately go in the next frame to... Whoops. To her reaching for that pole. Oof. That, doesn't sound right. I'm sorry. But, so everything gets moved screen right a little bit. And she's, even though the camera's following her, she grows and she moves across the screen some more. And then she compresses against it. Check that out. Let's look at the rest of this to see for like full context of what's happening real quick. So she compresses against the, it's doing the where it didn't buffer the frames that are coming on. It's annoying. So she compresses against the street light or whatever that is. The street sign, grips it and swings around it. You notice the pegging on this is a little off from the layout, and if you notice this is like a backdrop that was behind all this. So this kind of like little piece of backdrop right here is this van is actually in front of that piece of backdrop that they put in for the layout. It's a very super rough background. This is not the I don't think this is the background they actually used in the shot at all in the show. She swings her full body around there. Comes like butt first in the camera there. With a really simple drawing. And what I was talking about with really simple drawings and stuff, like what you're seeing here is not too dissimilar to what I'm talking about. That's a really, really simple, quick in-between that's just like very, very rough for the pose. And then it goes into more tied down drawing like this. But we're going to start with this, because that's the most immediately contrasting pose. But we're going to go by the highest contrasted poses here, first and foremost, before we do the breakdowns and the in-betweens, so we can kind of understand everything that's going on here a little bit better. She grows here, and then I think everything is kind of continuing here. By this point, I think the little... let me check the frames real quick. I think by this frame, like the projectile spike has probably vanished. So we'll maybe get rid of that real quick. Looks like it's shrunken a bit, actually. And then it vanishes on the next frame. Alright, so new drawing. Oh, it's still there. It just shrinks really, really itty bitty. How about that? But anyway, everything here moves the screen right a little bit. And she is in her contrasty pose of like squishing against this street light sign or whatever. Really compressing her body and stuff. So we'll kind of get that in real quick. Kind of a loose approximation of about where she is. I think I have to adjust it. I think I'm a bit off, actually. I'm drawing maybe a little bit big. Yeah, it's a bit more like that-ish, I want to say. I think that van is a little bit large and high up, so maybe it has to shrink a bit. Like that. So there she is here, kind of compressing and contrasting. So the layout be focused on your drawing because the original is in the bottom left. 1 second. Yeah, I'm focused on my drawing right now, but yeah, I'll put it up here so people can see this a little better. So let's see, maybe I'll just throw this in because like the underside of this hole right here seems kind of important. The street sign part of it doesn't really though. Okay, so that's pretty close to what we got here. I'm just going to leave that frame as is. There's some in-betweening that happens there, but we're not going to worry about that. I'm going to worry about what the most contrasting poses are. Here's the most contrasted pose that I can see. So I'm going to move a few frames ahead and create a new drawing, peg everything more to the side here and kind of down a bit. somewhere about like a loose approximation of where things are pegged on screen right now. The van has shrunken quite a great deal, and it's about here. She is all the way over on the other side of this object. And before I even draw her figure, I'm just going to kind of like rough in a loose sort of line of action-y bowed sort of thing here. But now that I have that, I have like kind of a loose idea of where she is. So I'm going to start kind of loosely putting in stuff that's somewhere in the ballpark of what I'm seeing on screen. So remember, we're trying to understand the idea of what's going on here. We're not trying to perfectly replicate the drawings here. We're trying to kind of understand it. And if we do it from that perspective, it should look motion-wise not far off from what the show has, and will look less stiff than it would if we just tried to verbatim copy the frames. So it wouldn't be implausible for us to take something like that, put our own characters on it, or do our own version of the characters doing the same action or something. But I mean, the point of doing this is to understand it so you can integrate it into your visual library of understanding how to handle shots like these. So there's a centrifugal force thing happening on here. Like there's a whole arc happening in a circular motion around her. And like I said, with simplifying how something like this is handled, you could maybe, like, if you're planning out a shot like this, you could, oh, I got my pole. I got a kind of a ball that squishes against this pole. It attaches kind of like Spider-Man, and then it stretches it out and swings around this kind of sticky ball that has like sticky parts to it on one end, and it follows its own kind of arc and centrifugal force here. You just think about it in terms of being like a ball. And then once you got that, that's enough to work with to kind of develop that into a figure. Like, you don't have to like go straight into figure drawing every time for working out a shot or solving the problems in it. So we're going to go through here a bit and find the next contrasting pose. That's pretty contrasting, I would say, but that's not as contrasted as this. So I'm going to move straight into this. The reason why I move straight into this is because we see the whole drawing here. Actually, the previous frame where it was pegged on the camera is a little bit closer to where I want things to end up. But this is a full frame showing off how this character is drawn and composed on the screen in full composition, so I'm going to do that first. I think it's like a... Now that I see it, that's like a theme restaurant sign, isn't it? I like glitch text, but there's some stuff to it that's like, oh, we live in a consumerist paradise, that kind of rubs me the wrong way a little bit. There is some subtext going on in the show that I kind of like about how like the company they work for is probably fucking evil. But I need to watch the rest of the show, new season, to kind of see where they go with that. It's weird that they kind of like work for like a if Scott Pilgrim was working for a Best Buy store that had problems with video game glitches escaping, basically, or GameStop. They probably get paid about as well as GameStop employees too, I'm betting. Child labor going on. Imagine if they tried to like push pre-order bonuses on people after they rescue them or something. I could see like a weird hyper satirical version of a premise like this doing shit like that. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, she's all contrasty and up there. I'm gonna add a little bit of the layout that's in there, but then I'm gonna work my way backwards because I can repeg this on a previous frame. Oops. So duplicate that. And now I'm going to repeg the drawing, because it's the same drawing, it's just repegged on a different frame. I'm wanting to talk because I'm basically an Amazon employee right now because I'm, if you want to talk about evil corporations and shit, Twitch is owned by Amazon, so well, come to Amazon.com, the happiest warehouse on earth. We get glorious 30-second bathroom breaks every 8 hours. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, that's the end point where it's going to wind up. Now we're going to go back through and we're going to take a look at the timing of this swing. I'm going to put it on the right timing, so at the very least we can see the frames that we've drawn at the proper timing for how it is in the show. So I think it's like almost like on ones for much of this. So what happens here is she compresses against the pole here. There's another frame here. So let's go work our way backwards now. Compress. There's another frame here. I'm going to start deleting the frame. Well, no. Press. Another frame here. I'm going to make little markers where new frames have to be drawn. Like here. Another frame here. Two X's. And another frame. Okay, so there's another frame here. I have to extend this out, actually, don't I? Just kind of making up a little system to mark these frames real quick. Another frame here. Another frame here. Another frame there. And we're actually right where we need to be now for the swing. So, there. That's roughly the timing of that action. But then, that part of the action, so let's get the rest of it in now. So, there's that. Got a new frame. There we go. Okay, I think we got it now. I think that's the rough timing of what happens there. Yeah. It kind of feels like she's swinging, even though it's like 3 frames. So I think we got the timing right for this part. So let's go back through and do the rest of the in-betweens on that part. There's quite a few of them, but we're going to go through them really quickly. Here, I need to stretch for a moment real quick, and then we'll get into it. We're going to be at this, let's see, we've been at this for about an hour and 40 minutes. It's going to be close to 3 hours total when we get done with this. When we get done with this, we'll probably take a look at some other cool, like Sakuga Buru stuff. I want to do more of what we're doing right here, right now. And I want to structure things in a way that maybe like we can study something like this, and maybe either later in the same day, or the next day, or later throughout the week or something. We can try doing our own version of something similar to that idea with our own characters. But yeah, have a look at what I got so far. This is pretty plausible to what actually happened. I mean, like, if you kind of start to wrap your head around the mechanics of what's going on, you can start inventing your own stuff. Like, it'll start getting more into your bloodstream. That's the point of why we're doing this. We're going to be increasing our visual library doing this stuff. We'll also, of course, go back to like stuff like Animator Survival Kit if we run into areas where we need to really understand something elemental of what's going on. Like, there's a lot of like squash and stretch stuff that's going on in here that I know about from studying animation, which would probably be worth going over with some of the newcomers here, that you can find out more about through studying stuff like Animator Survival Kit or Eric Goldberg's Character Animation Crash Course. So actually I think at the end of what we're doing right now, I will show people some books and other resources I recommend to check out for that will help people kind of digest and break down a lot of what's going on here. Weirdly, like I want to, it's really hard to find books in the West that like cover Sakuga animation principles. Like I don't think there's hardly anything that really does that right now that I can think of. There's tons of excellent stuff, and you can learn like the mechanics and the guts of animation of stuff that will help you in Sakuga. But the limited full animation and like how the Japanese animators approach stuff, it's a little bit harder to find resources for that. There's a lot of it in Japan, and thankfully there's a lot of like Gumrows and other things for like animators who teach and animate that way that you can learn from now. But it's kind of a little bit harder to come by, and there's a lot of really good Japanese books on this stuff that I hope get Western printing. But I really hope that I hope there's a lot more like. I want to find more resources like this that I can plumb through, basically. But yeah, in any case, so we're going to move on now to filling in those in-betweens that I was talking about. So let's go back through, and I'm going to delete the frames that where I need to draw in-betweens on my timeline. So I'm starting like actually like just after. I'm starting like just after this frame. So like here. Is this held for 2 frames? I don't think this is. I'll find out real quick. Because my timeline has this on for 2 frames. We'll find out. No, it's not. I'll fix that. Okay. So delete this. Oops. No, I'll make a new version of this. Duplicate. Get rid of that. Delete that. Delete that. Okay, so change the layout first off. Gotta repeg the layout to where it needs to be. It's about here-ish, I think. Move this down a little bit. It's not going to be perfectly pegged. This is of course just a study. We're not trying to get perfection here. We're trying to get like a similar idea. So let's see here. That is actually the wrong frame. This should be here. Let's put that there. I'll make a new drawing here. And then I'll go back a frame here to where I need the pose to be. One thing we're going to be doing more in the future, by the way, in addition to stuff like this, is action studies of live action type stuff, where we'll get to basically like exercise the same kind of stuff we're doing here, but we'll be designing stuff based on live action. I need to find good resources for suitable resources of. I wish there was like a live action equivalent, action scene version of Sakugaburo from like live action films. Maybe there is. If there is something like that, please let me know, because that would be fucking fantastic. Then I could get stuff like Jason Bourne choreography fight scenes, or fight scenes from the Witcher TV series, or fight scenes from what's that one? There's this one Polish show that's not The Witcher, by the way. This is one Polish show that has very realistic sword fighting in it, that a lot of sword fight choreographers praise as being a fairly historically accurate depiction of sword fighting. I mean, I can just yoink those clips myself, but it would be great if we had like some kind of resource I could just plumb through of action scenes in movies that's similar to Sakugaburo for live action. Hell, even like an animator reference equivalent of like a Sakugaburo type site would be fucking rad. She can look up animals or something, and then get like animal action stuff, animal action poses and things, animal walks or whatever. That'd be pretty fantastic to have just like a collective database. Bodies in Motion, yeah, that's a site. I don't know how good or bad it is, so I haven't used. Oh, I think I've used some of their free YouTube uploads before. Also, I think that's a pay site and stuff too, so if I use some of that stuff on stream, I'd probably get in trouble for it. Because it might be like copyrighted material or something. I can get away with doing this because this is educational. Are you being edumacated, everyone? Please let me know. Please insert edumacation. So I'm going to switch it back to the reference focus again. So now we need the new frame. We need the new frame of her starting to swing around the pole a bit. May want to go back and clean up one of those previous frames I did. It's really overly scribbled. Edumacation. Almost sound like I was saying machinima. Remember that site? There's a lot of drama videos now about how much that site took a nosedive, or it doesn't exist anymore, does it? It had like a whole bunch of drama with how it exploited the artists and YouTubers and stuff it signed on, and then it kind of imploded. All its past videos, which are highly memorable and parts of internet history, are now forever lost. Assuming people haven't archived them. So, alright, so next frame. not too much of a difference between frames, but here. Like that. I think the van's getting closer here. See that? Shrink. Delete this. It's not exactly pegged to perfection, is it? Like, I think her hands are in the wrong spot from where the background is on how this this layout is pegged. So we're not going to be too worried about getting that quite placed right, just as long as it's like kind of works. You can kind of see her shoulders a bit, I guess. I think those are either of those are supposed to be her hands on the pole, or those are her shoulders. I think those are her hands. No, I think those are her shoulders. Just put that there. Alright, so let's get that one. This frame's a little vague though, so I might erase a bit. Whoops, no, that was the wrong frame. Whoops, I messed up. Should probably shrink this a bit, though. Head's looking a little big from the previous frame. Okay, so, next frame. Maybe take this and copy paste it into here so I can maintain a little bit of continuity. Get rid of this. Yeah, her hands are kind of pegged a little wrong. I think those were her hands in the previous frame. Her head is supposed to be behind this. Right here, I think. So maybe erase a little bit of that. Like that. Just kind of imply that her hands are gripping it a bit. That's all I need. I'm just going to kind of go through these quickly to get the rest of them out here. Oh, here. Copy, pasty. That thing's going pretty mid-frame by this point. I think that this would probably be about here more than. So our hands are okay where they are, I think. Head's about here. Her body's kind of foreshortened. Her eyes are kind of looking up a bit. She's got that cape. Cape-shaped hair behind her that's kind of silhouetting her in the layout a bit. That's all we really need for this little kind of rough pose. And copy paste this into the next frame. There we go. A little bit more to the left. front of her head in there. I think I can even stretch her down more, too. It's like, oops. More like here. Press the body back a bit. One of her eyes went derpy. Little rough doodle eye that I put in there, just get rid of that. Just need something to show eye direction. Alright, so the next frame I think is the lead into where we're going with this. There we go. Actually, no, it goes straight into that frame. So I don't have to draw another frame now. Yippee. Alright, let's take a look up. Oops. Let's take a look at how it looks. First, I'm going to save an alternate version of this in case something happens to the file. And then let's take a look at how it looks so far. This is from Glitch Text, the Nickelodeon Netflix animated series that has a lot of really good Sakuga animation in it for being a Western show. Alright. Yeah, it's looking pretty close to how the show looks. We're going to finish up the rest of the in-betweens on this part. Let's see how much more we have to go in this whole sequence. We might skip ahead to the punch at the end if we get like some of the keyframes in and then don't fill in between. Yeah, there's like this part right here that's like really crazy. That's a really nice pose there. That's some really cool posing too. Cool pose there. There's a lot of cool posing. So I really wanted to get us to this. We have like another hour, maybe hour and a half. We can probably just go to like an hour and a half to get all of this. Because I really do kind of want to just like eat the whole meal here. And get everything in the sequence. Why not? I mean, like, you'll learn, we'll all learn more doing everything in here. So you notice the layout on the van back there is spazzing out. I'm not going to worry about fixing that until the end, though, because we're getting all the stuff that matters the most, right? And the layout is kind of going janky too. The camera move is kind of doing like stair stepping, but she reads fine, and that's the important part. Alright, so we're going to finish up the rest of the in-betweens on this part right here. What we're probably going to do is we're probably going to do like the rest of the key posing on, and not necessarily all the in-betweens on stuff, and then but then we'll do the punch at the end and fill in between that. Yeah, I'm a fan of, like, you can do draw-over studies of animation like this. I was going to do a draw-over study today, but because of circumstances with Harmony being a pain and not allowing me to import movie files for some reason, I've moved to this, which is a copy study, which is also an excellent way to learn, and probably better for this. I'm getting a lot better results out of this than I thought I would. Alright, so our next step will be to make the next in-between after this point. I'm going to switch it back to the reference focus. We only have a few more in-betweens to do on this part, and then we're going to move on to the other stuff. We'll fill in as much of stuff as we can to like kind of create a rough storyboard, basically, of everything else that happens in the shot. A rough animatic of everything else that happens in the shot, leading up to the punch, and then we'll put all our energy in that punch. So let's see where we left off here. About here. That's where we left off. So the next frame is this. Also, if you're doing stuff like this and you want like an animation, there's a few animation programs I can recommend that are free. OpenTunes, Blender, which has a 2D animation template that works pretty well. Krita has, I think you have to use some plugins to animate in 2D in that, but that one also has 2D animation capabilities and quite powerful too. There's one guy in particular that does some really interesting looking animated in Krita tutorials that are really detailed on YouTube that I've seen. I'll maybe see if I can recommend them later. But I'm talking like action show TV quality animation that he's doing in Krita, which is a free piece of software. And he has like free tutorials on it. He did like stuff that's like Avatar: The Last Airbender fan animation type things that look good, almost good enough to be in the actual show. And I did it all in Krita. But anyway, Harmony 20 is what I'm using for animating right now. And again, like I'm probably going to I am actually planning on getting more into Blender in the future. Because Blender has like really powerful 2D, 3D combination tools that I want to get more into using. I'm interested in exploring the hybridization of 2D and 3D. So I don't think this is... No, this is not pushed as the shots is. Like, that knee is really out there. That foot is really out there. Let's see if I can adjust this to be a little bit more like the shot itself. That leg, that foreshortened leg with the bottom of the foot is kind of like more like this. But I'm not going for perfection, of course. I just want something that kind of, like her leg is kind of swinging up there, kind of implying like this kind of U shape that's swinging up through the image for where she's headed. So maybe I might erase some of this in here. Just kind of make it read better a bit as the bottom of her foot. Alright, so next frame. This is the gymnast moment of this. So this gets over here. The layout gets pushed back over in the other direction, if you notice. It's more like this. Let's do that real quick. So let's get her buttocks now. This is a really like rough and loose kind of figure drawing. This kind of like really rough, loose way that they're handling the figure drawing of the legs there is not dissimilar to how you'll see a lot of animators drawing quick poses in animation gesture drawing classes when they get like But they get like 10-second poses and stuff. Which is something we're going to be doing in the future, actually. She's looking a little fat. Now I'm drawing her. So, try to get something that's a little bit closer to the proportions that the animator drew her. It doesn't have to be perfect. For the purposes of this study. So that's good enough, I think. Just a little bit more of that to like emphasize that heel. It's like that. It's all about that gymnast swing of the lower body. The person who did this was thinking of gymnastics, definitely. So let's see where it goes next. It goes here, which is a continuation of this kind of, whoops, this kind of superhero daredevil acrobatic swing. What the hell? Okay, there we go. There's what I think that's what we want. Yeah, right there. So this goes all the way over here. Big change in the layout. And likewise, there's a big change in her body. That, like, let's see here. Looks like he's getting like kind of hyper foreshortened. Like I think that's some of her back there, and then like her hair is coming out above it. Let's see if we can get somewhere in the ballpark of what's happening here. One way to do that is, of course, to plot things out by gesture and line of action first. I didn't really do that on the last one. I was trying to handle the exterior of that drawing a little bit too much. If you notice even how the animator drew this, there's like some indicators here to indicate what direction her hips are facing. Like we can kind of see the side plane of her buttocks right there a little bit. Like I'm kind of getting a little lost in it because I'm kind of paying attention to the overall sweep a bit. I could probably eliminate some of my scribbly lines a bit to take a crack at it and get a little closer to what's going on there. But there's like some stuff going on with her her thigh and her hip there that indicates a little bit more of her female hips and the side plane of her thigh. Kind of. There's stuff happening in the center line coming up from the buttocks that indicates what direction the buttocks are facing, what direction the thighs are facing. We're not going to get hugely into it, but it's just little notes to kind of observe what's happening there. And you can see the they also used some indicators on like the boots and stuff, and on that strap on her thigh, what direction everything is tilted. So that's all we really need for this. I want to say I'm going to go pull back a bit and maybe try to make it look a little bit more like the reference a bit. Maybe erase some things because I'm kind of getting a little bit visually confused myself right now. I think my alert box is kind of out of position right now. Let me fix that. There. But the main thing we need to pay attention to is there's kind of an indicator like right here and on the hip side of the hip what direction the hips are. So there we go. That's close enough. I'll move on now. There we go. Yeah, that works. Definitely. Even with these really crude drawings, you can kind of feel like the force of it. Like I would go back then and like work out some of the drawing problems I struggled with, for example, on another pass on this to tie it down further. But yeah, like the mechanics of how it works is working out pretty good. So let's see if let's see if we can add some more cushioning to this, and then we'll move on to getting like the rest of the sequence in. We'll move on to get rid of the rest of the sequence in, and then put the lion's share of our attention on the punch that happens at the very end. So it goes to this, goes to this, and then it goes to this. So let's maybe cushion it all the way to when she lands on this. So we'll cushion it to about there, like this drawing right here, because this is just like literally that's just zooming out on that held cell for several frames. So that's all we'll need for this. So we're gonna maybe like, maybe I want to say start here. Starting here would be a good spot because we can get the whole drawing of this pose, and then we can just repeg it because that drawing gets repegged a bunch, and we'll just draw the in-between. I think there's like one or two in-betweens that happen before it or something. So we'll do that first. So get rid of all this. Whoops. Get rid of all this. Change the reference focus so you all can see that and draw along. I would encourage you if you find something that you want to learn from, like on Sakugaburo or just like in anywhere that you can like rip and you can examine frame by frame, or pull into your animation software of choice or something, that you do studies like this. We will also cover live action studies in the future too, because live action studies is the primary way that you will be using to design a lot of your shots for animation. I may go over in the future of how to create your own live action reference as well, which is really hugely helpful. So I'm going to make another duplicate drawing of this so I can reuse that shape again later. Also, if you sign up for my Patreon at the $5 tier, you can get the harmony files that I'm making for this, and all other future demos that I do. You can currently do that now to get my Clip Studio and PSD files of other class demos I've done. Along with, you can subscribe on the $1 tier on my Patreon to get high quality images of my class demos for like my figure drawing class and other stuff too. My figure drawing, my head drawing class, and so on. There's also a bunch of free stuff on my Patreon too. Link is below. You can follow me on you can follow or subscribe to me on Patreon, and there's going to be regular updates of like free sketchbook stuff that I post in addition to paid tiers for my class demos. Anyway, if you do want to support me, just keep showing it for classes. Do the work. If you're able to, of course, and because the eyes on this prize is like, I'm not really too concerned about taking on donations. It'd be great if I get a good donation model going. But the real reason I'm doing this is I want to get better in animation, so that I can get better jobs and get paid better. I'm going to keep doing this when I get hired to the animation, when I get hired back to an animation job. I'll be doing this on the side or whenever I can make time for it, or between gigs or whatever. Because doing this kind of stuff is going to make me a stronger animator. Alright, so we got this. Now we can duplicate the rest of the frames here for how it gets repegged in the shot. Oh, actually no, there's a new drawing here, isn't there? So we'll hold off on that a bit. Let's see how many new drawings there are. Yeah, that is the drawing that gets held. So maybe we should handle that first. So let me go back a bit and shrink it so we get a full view of the drawing we're going to do. There we go. So I'm going to shrink this and move it to however I need it in the shot. Her hand and her foot are roughly about in the same spot. But her positioning of the rest of her body moves a considerable amount. See if is that pegged about right? Maybe it needs to be shrunken a bit more, I think. Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna be like studying from a lot of these in the future. I may even see if I can do some more of these throughout the middle of the week with people. I'm going to be gradually evolving what I do in these, what I do in these classes, because like as my visual library improves, analyzing stuff like this, I'm going to be a little bit more. I'm going to start being more bold about animating stuff. Like as this stuff gets into my bloodstream, it's going to start coming out of me a lot easier and a lot more fluently to try to design my own stuff. We're going to keep trying to keep our animator blood pumping in these class sessions, and by doing stuff like this regularly. These figure drawing sessions that I teach, and these animation analysis classes that I teach. So she's doing a really interesting pose here. If you notice what's going on here, like her head is like this. It's a very superhero-y comic book pose. She's got her thigh bent behind her back here, her legs down here. Her arm is kind of peeled around the side of that thing, and her back arm is up like that. And then, of course, all of that is reinforced by her rhythmical hair shape that's going on back there. So how are you enjoying this little exercise that we're doing right now? We'll take a look at some. We'll get into the punch, and then we'll take a look, and we'll get like the rest of the poses of this. We'll get like the punch done and fully in between too, and then we'll take a look at some Sakuga animation for more inspiration. Yeah, just doing this alone is giving me a lot of ideas for like things I could try in my own stuff. I would try I wouldn't even necessarily do a shot like this, but like showing me like, oh, you can do this kind of like really dynamic stuff with contrasty poses. I could think about stuff in the same way for completely different poses, but with a similar idea, completely different poses, completely different action that plays with the same idea. That's the point of doing this, to get this into your bloodstream, like I've said again and again. So now now that I've got the drawing I need, I'm gonna repeg it. Really small, really quick repeg here. But that's what we're gonna be doing a lot of. When I see something that's like, oh, that's so cool, I want to learn how they did that. Like, I wish I could do that. Guess what? We're gonna be studying it together. And try to take something away from it to use in our own work. How to get art pumped. Well, you need art workout. So we'll leave it at that point. for this. I'm going to go back through and maybe add I think there's like 2 in-betweens here, or her making that leap. So we'll make sure we get that in there. So just from this to that, held cell for 2 frames, and then that, which is a repeg of the drawing we did previously. So I'm going to extend this out a bit. I think we need about 3 more frames. And on this frame, oops. And then on this frame, this drawing that we did previously makes another appearance about here, I would say. Like these 2 frames here is where the other in between. So we only have to draw 1 new drawing now, I think. This one just gets repegged and resized. Alright, so now we go back through and we're going to add that additional in-between now. And it kind of moves a bit, so let's make sure we get it the right position for when it first appears. So it's right here. And also, in addition to what's happening there, is one of our buddies, this big spike shape that we drew previously, that I had on another frame, shows up here. So I'm going to duplicate drawing, create a new drawing there. I'm going to grow the shape out so it's roughly about where it is on the layout. Something like this. It's like huge. So I think something like this would work. That's pretty close. Alright, so now it's time for her figure pose. So I'll start with the hips, kind of plotting that out in space a little bit. I'm going to kind of keep loose with it a bit. Just get kind of like a little loose stick figure-y sort of thing, because I kind of got caught up in some shapes that I probably shouldn't have got caught up on one of the undershot ones, when I should have been drawing more like kind of like this. At least just to start with, before I start adding in indicators of 3-dimensionality. But that's okay. I mean, part of the reason why I'm doing this is to get more fluent and efficient with the drawing decisions I make when I'm doing my own animation. Running into problems while analyzing another piece, running into drawing problems where I get myself caught up in approaching things from the wrong angle while doing this is a good way to get some cross-training mileage in, really. So I'm going to push that back a bit more. It's got her cuffs there, her hand out like that. That's good enough for now, I think. Switch that in a bit, maybe. She's looking a little small, so I'm going to bring her up in size. Like this. And then the next thing that happens is this drawing gets repegged very slightly to the left. So, duplicate frame. Oops. Get rid of all this annoying stuff. Let's take a look. Save it. I'm going to save a new version of the file too. Yeah, it's looking good. It feels like how it does in the show, even though these drawings are really crude versions of it, of what's going on. So there's nothing keeping me from like doing tie downs on these and trying to get them more on model later, as long as the basic idea of the motion is working. Like if you start a shot like this before you do any tie downs and stuff, you're good to go. Like the director will approve the basic motion of what you've done, and then you start putting stuff on model. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look and strategically plan in advance, like which of the key poses we're going to use up until this point. I would say, let's maybe like do everything up until the important point of the big punch here. Then we'll go back through, add just the bare minimum we need of the keyframes that lead up to this moment. So we'll start here and then work our way backwards. If you notice in the background, that thing she swung around is like way back there now. So let's see here. I'll start maybe, I want to say about like here. And I'll just start drawing. Just kind of rough in her head up here at the top of the frame. Her head's going a little bit beyond, her head and arm are going a little bit outside the frame a bit. I'm going to get kind of her hip tilt and body tilt a bit, her shoulder tilt. Just rough indicators of this stuff. Yeah, her leg is bent under her thigh. Got everything kind of working there. I'm gonna do actually another. I'm gonna try to make this a better looking keyframe. So let's see here. Start drawing here. And I'll use onion skinning for kind of an overlay. Kind of here. Let's do it in a different color. I'll do something that's a little bit closer to her character. Or a little bit more tied down anyway. Still not going for perfection. This is going to be really rough and crude. But I just want a little more clarity for this. So you got her hips kind of tilted up here with her thigh kind of doing this a bit. Her waist down here. She's a little bit big on the frame now that I'm seeing this, so I'm probably going to shrink her a bit. Actually, I think it's her lower body that's a little bit big. So I'll shrink that a bit. That might help. So I like glitch text, but I think one of the things I can't stand is like the video gamer reference stuff. gets a little heavy-handed. Like, there's a lot of gamer puns in the show that are just really irritating. Like, every other joke is like a reference to an acronym of video gaming or something. Thanks for the DLC, oh, shmup, and so on. It just gets grating. But it's a fun show. The dialogue can be pretty cringe at times, that's all. And there's some of the themes in the show that are kind of sketchy that I mentioned earlier. But it's a good show. We wouldn't be trying to study from it if it wasn't. So I'm not really worried about making a super good drawing. I just want something that's a little bit more tied down. So I'm going to change the color on that to that. Let's put that there. Whoops. So we'll kind of guesstimate what frames we need here now. Or we'll go back and plan which of the frames we need for the rest of this now. So we're starting from about here. Let's count how many frames there are. Okay, one drawing. I think it's the same drawing, but repegged forward. Two drawings. I think that's the third drawing, isn't it? Two drawings. Three drawings. Although I think that's might be the same drawing, but with her hair slightly different. Four drawings. Five drawings. Six drawings. Huh. I think we could actually do all of it. It's like just 6 drawings, 7 drawings, 8 drawings. Yeah, 8 drawings. Okay, so. Whoops. Yeah, that's not too bad. We could probably do that. Yeah, let's just go for it. We'll just do the whole thing. And then we'll like pay a whole bunch of attention to the punch at the end. Okay, so where do we start here? We should probably start with this pose right here. That's actually not, yeah, that's like 9 drawings, actually, now that I think about it. But we'll start with this pose, because then we can, I think it's the same, yeah, it's the same drawing, but with her hair different. So we'll start with this. And then we can just shrink her. Alright, so first off, I'm going to copy paste this about roughly where it is on the layout. Shrink that down really teeny bitty. It's pretty close, I would say. Like maybe about here. Move it over to the right a bit. I'm going to probably go through these really quickly though. Like, I'm not going to draw the full detail of the character. I'll probably draw them like this, a little bit more. So now that we got that, I think that's enough to work with. And that's enough of an indication of what she's doing to work for this. So, now that we got that, we'll just copy paste this frame back here. Duplicate drawing. And take a look at how it's pegged in the previous frame real quick. There we go. Am I mistaken, or does the thing she's jumping off of not move or change at all on those two frames? Just like that, and then I just delete the hair, change the hair a bit. So there's a quality I'm noticing missing in the drawing, which is that there's kind of like a sense of like her coming like towards the camera, kind of like that, a little bit more. So I should maybe include a little bit more of that in there. Your foot getting itty bitty down there because of that. So now I'll just copy paste that in here and shrink it. It's not perfect, but it's roughly roughly the idea of what's going on. So yeah, then the camera pulls back further on this pose. So let's just duplicate this. It's more of a contrast, I think. I may have to go and fix something here. There's something weird going with the pegging that I might want to keep track of. Yeah, that's steadily going away and staying roughly in the same spot. It's about like this. Let's see how it looks when I frame by frame it for the pegging. I think she takes up more space over here. Looks like it might read a little better to me. Alright, move on to the next drawing. I think I jumped a little ahead. There we go. Okay, next drawing. I think, yeah, we don't have to worry about that. We don't have to worry about that spike floating through space anymore. So it's just going to be about her. So I'll get like a sphere that's kind of at her head angle a bit there. Get like an indication of her torso a bit. Get her back leg sort of massed in there. Get her thigh in there. This is badly pegged, but I'm just concentrating on the pose right now. I can just repeg it. just want the bare essentials of what's going on. What? Who's talking right now?
No, far from.
I'm sorry? James, was that you? Hello? So I have Discord volume really low right now, so whoever was talking in Discord chat, I couldn't hear them, other than hearing that it sounded like someone was talking. Yeah, what was James saying? Like that. And like this. I think this is just a repeg back there in the next frame, so do that, duplicate. Hang on, James, I can't hear a word you're saying.
Yeah, people are already hiring. A couple of people in Turn 3 already got job offers. It's fine.
Okay, now I can hear you. What are you talking about?
No, ones that are current.
What?
China.
Who are you talking to? Are you talking to me, James?
No, I think you're gonna go there and work.
What?
No, they're both like Europeans.
James, hello?
Yeah, yeah, really good job.
Okay, I'm gonna have to mute James. Alrighty, so get another pose here. This one's the same pose but closer and slightly different hair. We'll just power through these. These are going to be very quick. We'll try to make them go by quick. Okay, we got that one. We'll move to the next one. The next one is a repeg. It's a slight repeg of the last one. I think that one is held on a 2 before. Yeah, it's held on a 2 before doing that. She's jumping on another one of those spikes there. I'll handle her pose first before I add the spike in. I'm just going to fully draw her in, kind of rough her in her body direction. You can see the center line of her design there. Her thigh kind of going down there. The foot, the direction of the cylinder of the thigh. And she's got her calf kind of going up like this. Their foot angled that way, so there's this kind of weird effect there. But the whole body is doing this kind of sweep there. Adjust the head a bit. Her other arm is going back into space like this. And the back of her hair is kind of flipping up behind her skull, doing this kind of curved blade sort of thing. I'm not going to be too worried about getting the detail on this right, because we're just powering through this just so we can get to the punch scene, which we're going to be spending a little bit more energy on. Is James teaching a class after mine? Is that why he's in here? Someone please check the schedule of the announcement page for me. Alright, so I'm just going to draw this in here. And that's good enough. Let me squish that in a bit. Adjust your hips a bit. Is a class of 1 hour? Okay, good. We should be done with this before then. I'm just going to go for the whole hog. I'm committed to finishing this right now. So I'm pretty sure we'll be able to finish this before James's classes start. Just might not be able to go over the Sakuga Buru stuff that we did. Alright, so we got that. Big old contrasty pose where the peg is the spike is pegged roughly in the same spot, so let's get that. Let's get her in there. She's got a really nice iconic looking pose here, so make sure I get the overall gesture of it working. She's got her upper body there. It's a very Mega Man pose. There's a lot of kind of very Mega Man looking stuff in Glitch Text designs and its posing. Which makes sense, of course, given what the show is about. Mega Man style is very much like Astro Boy, kind of like simple shapes for the robot body shapes, big eyes, small mouths, and very much like Osamu Tezuka Astro Boy type stuff, with really like cylindrical limbs that are kind of like not too dissimilar from like some rubber hose animation stuff, kind of like this. And the proportions of the bodies usually tend to be stuff like this, where like you get kind of like mannequin model looking hips and stuff. They look kind of like action figures, and they usually have like big boots and big forearms and stuff like that. Kind of like this. Anyway, get back to her now. That's all we need for that. She's got a little bit of her hair going behind there. So this is a repeg of the same drawing, I think. Let's double check. Yeah, it is. And this is a new drawing. So let's do this. I'm in a race against time right now. So let's try to power through this. And then we can pay a little bit more attention to the... Oh, yeah. That's okay, James. I'm unmuting you now. I didn't server mute you, I just self-muted you from my end. When's your class starting, James, by the way? They said it was like going to be like an hour from now or something? Mm-hmm. Cool, I'm going to try to power through this stuff. You can even call your students in here early to check out what I'm up to, because like this is a study of glitch text animation. In the time we have left, I'm going to be working on a Yubari punch or whatever from this. And I'm going to race against the clock before your class begins to finish the study. But let me show you what I got so far in this on screen real fast on my Twitch. It's playing right. It's going to be playing right now. Whoops, that's reference only. Focus. There we go. Okay. Let's pause it real quick. Yeah, this is as far as I've gotten so far. The whole sequence here. We're going to try to get to the punch part of it. If we got 45 minutes, then that's just going to be a challenge for me to race against the clock. Feel free to call your students in here early too, so that they can kind of see the tail end of what I'm doing here, if you like. I'm going to hopefully like talk about some of what I'm kind of trying to learn from this. Okay, so we need one more drawing here. It's going to be a repeg and another drawing here, another drawing here. So we need at least 2 more drawings before I get to the part where I left off. So I need a repeg of this. Repeg of that, need 2 more drawings. There we go. So this gets repegged and pushed back, something like this. Yeah, the stretches are very important to pay attention to for sure. The posing also isn't the best, but I'm just trying to power through this. I just want the general idea of it. I'm going to be paying more attention in the last half hour or so to the big old punch that this is going to be leading into. So I need another original drawing here. Kind of like there. Reference focus. A little hard to see her behind that water tower, but let me try to get a good approximation of what she's doing there. She's doing a very superhero-y kind of thing right now. It's like this kind of pose, I think. There's her thigh. So I got that, and I'm just going to peg it to where I need it to be. Whoops. So I'm going to add more of an indicator that that's her thigh. It's just going to be, this is a very thumbnail-y study going on here. So let's shrink it down a little more, and that's a little closer to what's happening there. But I need another original drawing here. There we go. Get that cone down, shrunken. Pretty good. Alright. We get about to where we left off here. Oops. So, this is a held cell for several frames. This gets held 1 frame. Our expression changes on this frame, I think. But it's the same drawing. Just repegged. Somewhere like this. I'll do her mouth in black. The pose isn't exact to what she's doing there, but it's close enough for the purposes of this study. Whoops. Interesting. I may have to repeg this one slightly. There we go. I'm just going to go straight ahead on this, because that would be the best way to power through this without guessing. So, whole body's kind of doing a twist up here. We get her hips about here on the frame. Let's try to get the whole pose in, and then I can repeg it to fit the frame. Let's repeg that into frame now. It's pretty close. So that gets held for 1 frame, and then it gets repegged for 1 frame. Where we see some of her eye. When this happens, so this one is a really nice pose. I'm going to try to just get it really loose here. Might get caught up into micro detail. Alright. That gets pegged down again for another frame. Let's duplicate that. Drop her down a peg or so. Yeah, I think it goes into this then. And as with that other one, I'm going to try not to dwell too much on the micro details and just get like the big overall idea of what's happening. Their hand coming way into frame like that. Blocking part of her face. Other hand that's getting ready to anticipate the punch. Coming back behind her. Her hair kind of going wild like that. That gets held for a frame and then it gets repegged. Like so. Then we get this very important frame right here. There's a big old close-up of her hand. That is one of the things I'm going to try to really commit to memory for the problem solving that went into this. It really, really simplified hand and close-up right here. Or we can see some of her eye peeking out. And some of her head. We can kind of sense the direction that her head is tilted even through there because of how her hair curves up back behind there. Then we got this fist that's curving around back over here, pressed inward like that. Her body is like doing this behind there, like really stretching out kind of. So now I'm going to repeg. I'm going to adjust this a bit and then repeg it. Some of her hair is back over there, I think. There we go. That's pretty close. I think she's leaning back a little more, so maybe I'll adjust this a bit. That's like this, this. That might work a little better. The question is this held on a frame? Yeah, it is. And then it goes to this. Which is a very important pose for setting up the punch. The tilt of her head, the attitude she's got, the contrasting foreground close-up of her hand right there. This is very, very important for setting up the anticipation of that huge ass punch he's about to throw straight into the camera. She's definitely got like a Mega Man proportions thing going on here with that fist too. Like that's very, very Mega Man arm body type stuff right there. This is so weird. Why isn't it letting me do like the full... It's not letting me frame by frame as much as it was earlier in the file. It's really annoying. We're gonna have to do our best here. Yeah, it looks like there's a push drawing here. You see here what's happening with these frames. So there's this. That's a new drawing. Pretty sure that is a new drawing too, so I think it goes that, then there's going to be a new drawing about here. It's not going to be too far off from the previous drawing. Oh yeah, no, that is a totally new drawing, I think. James, are you going to do your class to Twitch? I can set my audience to raid you after. Turn off onion skinning. Now work on problem solving this to get a little bit closer to what's happening up there. It's got kind of a cube fist going on there. Thumb should be down a little more. You can see the side of her body, the hand stretched out. This should maybe be a little smaller. Pushed in that direction a bit. All right. Well, I'll set my audience to raid your channel when your Twitch is going up. I think it's like /raid and then I type your username. Or I think there's an on-screen command in my Twitch dashboard where I can do that too, and then I just pick a username to raid or whatever. So I'm kind of racing against the clock here, otherwise I'd be able to point out more stuff about like the push perspective and foreshortening that's going on here. I'm kind of scribbling this in just to get it out here in rough form first. So that is a different frame, definitely. So I think the pattern here is it's going on 2s, but a new drawing every 2 frames or so. So I'm going to go very, very quick through this, just trying to get the overall sweep of the pose. And the overall idea of what's going on. And I can always go back in, as long as I get this out in a quick pass right now, I can go back in the time we have left to kind of touch up a few things. I at least want to get it out on the paper right now in the time we have left. Doing it straight ahead would probably be the best way to do it, which is how I'm doing it now. So there is a quality I'm kind of lacking in this. Let's see here. Push that arm a bit more. Yeah, definitely going to go back and fix up that pose a bit. I think it's held for like 6 frames or something. But I'll do that after I get like the rough idea of these poses down first. Her head gets bigger here, her body tilts down here. Her hand kind of goes off frame here. Her hair's kind of doing this. Eyes are doing a little bit of this. That fucking Octorock looking facial expression I threw in as a placeholder. I'm gonna go back in and like do some better drawings, but I want to at least get like the basic idea of what's going on here down. There we go. So that face close-up is one of those key features of like, I think it's called the Yubari punch. Where you see like the fist kind of enforced perspective in the background here, and the face in like full close-up, full extreme close-up kind of. What the? Okay. There's a lot of frames that are being missed here. It's really annoying. Let me actually see if the Sakuga Buru extension that I have will work for doing like some kind of frame by... Oh, yeah, it will, actually. There's a Sakuga Buru frame by frame feature I forgot about. That is very handy. I should have been using this the whole time. Okay, so... Okay, she gets even more intense on this next frame. So 2 frames held, another frame she gets more intense on. We'll full screen that. There we go. Should have just been using this from the start. Just like directly through Sakuga Buru. I don't even have to download or deal with fucking VLC media player. doing weird shit to me. It would have probably saved at least like around God knows how much time. Exponentially it adds up of me fiddling with BLC Media Player doing weird shit. Messing up my flow. You notice those knuckles back there are pretty well defined. I'm going to try to just emphasize them a bit as I do this kind of quick rough. Yeah, QuickTime does frame by frame, but I didn't install QuickTime before I got started here. RIP. In any case, I don't have to worry about that, because is there a key, there might be a keyguard command in this thing. Okay, here we go. So that gets held for 2 frames, I think, and then, or that might not actually. I think that's a 1. Then it goes to like this. So more to the side, I think. It's very big in the frame, so more like that. And then this fist is probably placed somewhere about over here, I want to say. And let's power through the rest of these. I'm in a race against the clock, folks. So yeah, this is a repeg. I have a held cell right here. So duplicate drawing. Move that down just a slight tad. Even less than that. And then it goes to this. We're just going straight ahead on this. So back over to here. Ooh. Really intense expression. Got her shoulder muscle there, kind of. It's kind of implied that she's kind of like leaning her upper body, like really extreme. Right here. Her fist coming forward is almost like a big cube or a 2x4. It's coming forward on the back of her body. And I didn't leave enough room over here for the rest of the composition, I think. So this needs to be over there a bit. Maybe this whole thing needs to be over here a bit. Maybe this needs to shrink a bit. I'm getting a derp eyes effect there. Let me adjust that expression a bit. I just want basics of what's happening here. Held cell moves, then throws punch. That fist takes up a lot of the screen. I'd love to like draw this in more detail, draw a lot of the stuff in more meticulous detail, but I'm literally racing against the clock right now, so this is going to come out looking really crude. As long as I get the overall kind of thrust of the idea. But I'm pretending like this might be the way I might draw when I'm like racing against the clock to get my roughs in to be showed during dailies at a studio or something. Like, I've got 15 minutes left. I've got to rough in the rest of this so I can show the director what I have in mind, even if it's really rough, as long as it reads. I think we're pretty close, actually. There we go. Yeah. Let's make sure it's to save a new version, because I'm close to the end on this and would hate for the file to fuck up. I've gotten really instinctive over the years about making backups and making multiple versions of the same file and making backups of my backups and stuff, because it saved me so many times losing like hours or weeks of work when a file corrupts, or when a program crashes or something. So that's all I need for that. And now I just need like a flashy indication of like perspective lines with kind of what was the knuckles here. And then I think it's going to be going into some Studio Trigger looking effects. There we go. Just for effect, I'm going to do this. Blue. Then paintbrush. Here's my paintbrush properties. There we go. Boost that in size. There we go. Just a crappy little version of that. Okay, drawing. Actually, I'll just scribble over it. There. I'm just going to do this fast and dirty. Yeah, for now, whenever I see a cool piece of web animation, I'm going to do a study like this. For one of these workshops or classes. Cool piece of web animation, cool piece of animation to show something I want to learn from and make part of my vocabulary. As an animator. Okay, that's a repeg and then rotate, kind of, but I'm just going to draw it. Oops, I messed up. There we go. Rotate. That gets repegged. Little fireball swirl coming towards us. Oh yeah, I love Space Brothers. That's what the stream alert animation is on my stream is from, for when people follow and sub me right now. The little pug, who will be replaced, sadly, with a some of my own original animation at some point. At some point very soon. I'm going to be working on fixing and cleaning up the animation I started last week, this next week, for my new stream alert. Power through this. Let's do this. Oh. It's still worth it to be an animator. You just have to be really good. There's a lot more jobs that are being done. Like there's a lot more people working from home right now. Let me put it that way. I'm kind of on the lookout for jobs like that at the moment. I haven't found anything juicy yet, but I will apply to something when I get it. I have my foot in the door at Disney TV, so I actually want to do a major portfolio update before I recontact them to show them, hey, look, I'm way fucking better now. But that's why I'm teaching these classes and stuff, because this is my study time for me, getting up my animation dexterity and my knowledge. So I can compete with all the hot, cool kids that are the hotshot, cool kids that are doing like Sakuga animation stuff these days. So the point of doing stuff like this is I'm trying to internalize like how these other animators handle these shots, and what are the mechanics of it. What kind of stuff can I use in my own animation that I'm sort of observing from this. Yeah, you did miss a lot, but it's okay. You'll be able to see the fruits of what I've done for this study. But don't worry. James is actually going to be not modern day, but our James is going to be teaching a class right after mine. That's it. Cool. All right, so. Now we have the full shot. Just gonna save it. Make sure I save a new version of it. So the punch is probably gonna be the weakest part because I just powered through it. So the time we have left, I'm gonna go back through and maybe fix some of the things that are not working about the punch. But here, check it out. Whoops. What was your question? Do you recommend beginners use grease pencil? I just start. Well, you should use whatever you're comfortable with and whatever's free. Like grease pencil with Blender would be a good way to start. I would also recommend OpenTunes. OpenTunes, which is of course free. When you're learning how to animate, you want to just use whatever you can get a hold of. So yeah, the weakest part in this right now is actually the punch, because I had to power through it because I wanted to make sure I had time to really. So let's see. How would I fix this? Like, even like this. I'm probably going to go back and pay special attention to that punch at the end, because that seems really weak compared to the other stuff in the study that I did. But maybe some of it has to do with the timing. So let's see here. Let's see what's going on here. Maybe I have it timed wrong, you know? So let's start about... This is about where it starts. There. 2, 3. 2, 3, 4, 5. Ooh, there's one part right here. 4, 5, 6, 7, 6, 7, 8. Eight is a slight downwards diagonal repeg. So that gets removed. $10, $11. This is actually bigger. Okay. Yeah, I'm almost done. Okay, so how long is this held for? 1, 2, 3, 4. It's held for 4 frames. That's pretty close to what we got. Maybe subtract 1 frame from that. So I'll see how it looks now. Yeah, there's this. I think there's some issues with the posing. But anyway, I'll go back and fix that later. The other stuff in this is working good. Yeah, it kind of falls apart at the punch, but that's okay. So still a good study time, and we'll go back and fix that up. So I'm gonna defer over to James real quick because he's got a class he's gonna teach. Yeah. Now the main thing is I powered through this, so like I was starting to get really fatigued, and also I was racing against time at the stuff at the end. So the stuff in the beginning is working a lot better. Let's like everything up to about like here, I'd say, is working pretty good, and then it kind of falls apart a bit. Like, see? Because I had more energy and concentration and stuff when I was doing that stuff. Yeah, I'll be able to go back and fix that other stuff. So yeah, thank you all for coming. James, have you started your Twitch yet? If so, then I'll get everyone in here to raid.
Yep, just started my stream.
Okay, you just started your stream. All right, everyone, we're going to be raiding James's channel. They're also teaching through the same Discord that I am. So here, let's see here. Pick a live channel to raid, and your name of your channel is In Broad Strokes, right?
Yeah, yep.
In Strokes. Huh. Nothing's coming up. Maybe I have to follow you. So, In Broad Strokes Twitch. There we go. It's weird, I thought I was... Yeah, I am following you. What the hell? Huh. And you're live. Hang on, I'll get this sorted out, folks. Raid channel. In Broad Strokes. Maybe if I refresh the browser here.
It's just a /raid space. The name of it.
Yeah. Okay, well I'll do that. So everyone, we're gonna raid now. All right, everyone sign onto the raid. We'll all move over to his channel. So, congratulations. Thank you all for coming. We'll be meeting for head drawing on Monday, where we'll be doing like cartoon facial expression analysis this time, which should be very fun. Alright, I think everyone in my channel is signed into the raid. We're going to raid now.